Hi, thank you for signing up to be a caller for this year's Phonathon. We could not do it without our volunteers, so we're so grateful. We have made some changes to be able to support this as a completely remote event this year, and I'm going to go through how this works so that you can make calls from your own home over the 4 nights of this event. So to start, everyone who signs up to be a caller will be assigned to a spreadsheet that they will have access to on each night of the Phonathon that you have signed up for. Each station has a unique list of donors who are all past supporters, and by clicking on each name as you go through this list, you will get access to a Google form that will give you a little bit of information about that donor and allow you to record their response to our ask for this year. The other thing to note is that we are not cold calling people. So everyone we're calling for the COTS Phonathon is a past supporter of COTS. Some folks might be newer donors, but they have all given at least one time before in order to be included in our Phonathon calling event. So to begin with, you will see a list of names and you can just call right down in order is probably the best way to go. If you do see the name of somebody you recognize, it is fine to go ahead and start with that. Just make sure you are checking off who you're calling as you go. This is going to be used in subsequent nights. We will reassign our stations to new volunteers, and so they will pick up where you have left off, and the way they will know that is by indicating on this spreadsheet whether or not they've already been called. So to begin with, you will start with the first donor on your list, and this is going to link you to a Google form when you click their name that you will then follow along with. So we'll start with Steve, and that's just going to go ahead and automatically open a form for you. At the top of the form, you will see some pre-populated information. This is going to be details about who you're calling. So in this case, all the station names will be a reference to whatever station you have been assigned to for the night. So in this case, this is a training station that we're going through the list. This is for internal purposes, but this is a unique ID for that donor that helps us tie their responses back to our database. You will see the donor's name, and then we also have included the salutation. This captures if somebody prefers to go by a certain nickname. You will see that here in the salutation line. And then we will also share what town and state they're from, and then we will have their phone number for you to call. So the next part you're going to see is gift information for that donor. We will have their last gift made to COTS as well as what date that was made. And we're also going to have information about whether or not they gave to last year's Phonathon. And the reason that it's important to know this is because we have a matching grant in place that will match anything above and beyond what they gave to last year's Phonathon if they gave last year. So if they gave $100 last year, in this case, this donor did. If they give $105 this year, $5 of that gift will be matched. So anything above in addition to what they gave last year, that amount will be matched. If, for instance, though, this said false, that would mean that they hadn't given a gift to last year's Phonathon. That would mean that their entire gift that they make this year to this event would be matched. So if they give $100 on this night that they're pledging, that entire $100 will be matched by our grant. So one thing I wanted to note was, what do $0 values mean in these pre-populated sheets? So in the way that these are structured, if a $0 amount is coming in the last gift amount field, this is a reference to the fact that their last gift to us was an in-kind donation. So it wasn't actually a specific cash amount that they gave us, but they gave us a donation of items of some kind. So if you are talking to a donor and they're curious about, what their last gift amount was, you can say, well, my notes indicate that the last donation you made was a gift of in-kind support on April 12th of this year. You'll also notice that if their answer for the Phonathon gift is false, if they did not give to the Phonathon last year, that amount will also be 0 because they did not give anything to the Phonathon last year. So that is what $0 values mean in these donor history profiles. We're going to go over the donor response section of this form. This is the most important starting point where you start to enter information on how the donor has responded to our ask. The first 4 choices you will only select if you actually speak to a donor on the phone. The last 3 choices would be options that you choose if, for whatever reason, you didn't actually speak to this donor, and then you would indicate what actions you took at that point. So if you did speak to a donor, you will have one of these 4 choices. Yes, pledged a specific amount is referencing that they said, yes, I want to make a gift to the Phonathon and I want to give $100 to the Phonathon. So if they say, yes, I want to give $100, that's going to be yes specified because we're going to want to track what their pledge amount was. Maybe though they say, yes, I do want to give a gift of support, but I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to donate, or perhaps they just don't want to share the amount they're going to give. In that case, we want to say, yes, this person wants to give a gift, but we didn't know the amount. So we're not going to track a specific amount, but we are going to track the fact that they said, yes, they're giving. In some cases, they might say, maybe. Maybe they need to think about it. Maybe they're not sure for whatever reason. Maybe they want to visit our website for more information. That would be a maybe, and we would select that option. And sometimes we do have people say no for whatever reason. Maybe they've already given their support this year to other organizations. Maybe they don't have it in their budget this year, but for whatever reason, if the donor says no, we're going to mark no. And then in the case of not speaking with a donor, you would either say, I left a message, so the phone rang and their message machine picked up. You would leave a message, let us know that you did that. Sometimes, though, we can't actually leave messages. There's just never an answer. So if it's an issue of there's no voicemail connected or maybe the voicemail is full, in that case, you would select no answer. And then also, maybe this is a wrong number or maybe the line was disconnected. If that's the reason that you couldn't get a hold of anybody, you're going to mark bad number so that we can keep track of that in our records. So once you make this selection, you will click Next to proceed to the next window in the form. So if we were talking to Steve and he said, yes, I want to give $100 to the Phonathon, we would go ahead and mark yes, specific amount, click Next, and now you will have a window where you can enter the amount that he said he wants to give, $100. And make sure not to enter commas in this field when you're entering these gifts. And then you'll just say Next. So at this point in the form, you have a chance to make note of any preferences that the donor mentions is on the call, any special requests they might make. Go ahead and let us know if they don't prefer to be called or maybe they don't want to be on our mailing list anymore. You can mark any that apply here. This is also where you can make a note of any special requests they might make. Perhaps they had a question you didn't know the answer to and they want a staff callback. You can go ahead and add a few more details in the notes section. Maybe they had a volunteer interest. Again, you can indicate there what they're interested in the volunteer notes section. Also, something that you can add in the notes section would be if they indicate they prefer a nickname or maybe somebody in the household is no longer in the household anymore and they want us to update their record. Anything like that would go into the volunteer notes section. And so this last part of the form is where you can note if they ask for another mailing. So we don't actually ask them if they want a second pledge envelope mailed to them, but if in your conversation it comes up that they would like another mailer sent to them because perhaps the first one was lost or not received, this is where you can indicate that they would like that. In most cases, that probably won't come up in your conversation, in which case you would just mark no, and you could just skip right down to the bottom of this form in that case and submit, and you're done. So Steve made a pledge of $100 and it's submitted, so you can just close right out of this. So now that we've finished our call with Steve and submitted his response, we can go ahead and mark him as called. So we're just going to click right into Xander's form. And one important thing to note is just to take a look at your donor name and make sure that you did indeed click into the person you think you did. It's Xander, great, perfect. You can see his giving history here again, and you'll note that he did not make a gift to last year's Phonathon, and what that means is that anything he decides to donate to this event this year will be entirely matched. And so let's say Xander says, yes, I do want to give, but he doesn't specify how much. You're going to go ahead and click yes and click next. And because we didn't have a specific amount to record, we're just going to skip that part of the form where we would enter an amount because we don't know what the amount is. And you will just proceed through the form. Let's say in your conversation with Xander, he indicates that he did not receive his first mailing that we sent him and he wants us to mail something else. So in this case here, you would click yes in that case, and then you would ask, well, has your address changed in the last year? If he says no, then you will say, okay, thank you, and you'll submit the form, and that means that we will send another mailing to him at the same address we have on file. But perhaps Xander said, yes, I did move in the past year. In that case, we want to make sure to add his new preferred mailing details. So go ahead here and add the street number and name, the city, state, and the zip code. I'll just put this for now, and then you'll submit that, and he's all set. And now we will make sure to mail a letter to Xander with those updated details. And you can just close that off, and you can go ahead and say, I called Xander. Xander's done. And then you would go into the next person on your list, Lydia. Donor name is Lydia. All right, you're on the right form. You can see her number. What is her giving history? Let's say for Lydia, you couldn't get a hold of Lydia. So in that case, you would say that you left a message and any notes. And this is, so you didn't speak to the donor, but this is a chance to say, maybe you know who Lydia is, and maybe you know that she's at a different number now, or maybe she's moved out of state. In most cases, you probably won't have notes to add here, but if you do, this is your chance to add them, and you can just submit that form, and you're done. And you can always just close right out of these once you're done. Lydia has been called. Now let's say you want to call Robert. And we see, yep, I'm on Robert's form. He prefers to go by Bobby. You've got the gift history. Let's say when you talk to Bobby, you can't actually get a hold of him at all. Maybe this is a bad number. In that case, when you select that, we're going to collect a little bit more information on why it was a bad number. Was it disconnected? Maybe it's no longer in service. Maybe somebody else is at this number now, and you know because you've talked to a different person at that number, or the voicemail is a different name. So you'll indicate why it's a bad number. Again, if there are any notes you want to include here, this is your chance to do that, and then you'll submit that form, and Bobby's is done. And so that is how we conduct the remote Phonathon. You will go through each of these folks and open a form and make those calls and record those answers. And I just wanted to say thank you again for volunteering for the COTS Phonathon. We really could not make this fundraiser possible without your hard work and dedication, and I know we always get a lot of really great feedback from our supporters after this event. They really appreciate this chance to talk to the volunteers and hear what's going on with COTS and make their pledges to this Phonathon. So again, thank you so much, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions.